Welcome to a special edition of Gospel Truth with Andrew Wommack, a teaching ministry that focuses on God's unconditional love and grace. This week, Andrew is joined by guest speakers Richard Harris and David and Tim Barton as they discuss the upcoming elections and America's hope for the future. And now, here's Andrew.
Hello and welcome to our Monday's broadcast of the Gospel Truth. This is a very special set of programs this week. I am really privileged to have David and Tim Barton with me, and also Richard Harris, who is the director of our Truth and Liberty Coalition. And what we're going to be talking about is these upcoming elections and the responsibility that Christians have to get involved and to make a difference. And I could give a very lengthy introduction to the Bartons, but they are national treasures. I really believe that. They have the largest private collection of original documents in the U.S. They have a ministry. You are at the forefront of motivating Christians to get involved. They have a museum in their place. I've been there. That was awesome. And David was on the platform committee for the Republican. You've written the platform, I think, for the last few rounds of them writing platforms. And anyway, they are just involved and very, very effective. And so we're going to be talking about how Christians have a responsibility to get involved. And if you don't know the Bartons, their ministry is called Wall Builders. Is it wallbuilders.com?
Yes, sir.
Correct? And you can go there, and they have everything that you would ever need to get informed about the history of the United States, about our godly heritage, and a lot of information about getting Christians involved in I hate to say politics, because it's just getting involved in being a Christian, being salt and light's what it is.
If you want to get involved in politics, you go to church. That's where you get politics.
And you know, the history of the United States, it's been changed, and people are rewriting history and making it like that this is some kind of Christian nationalism. I got branded that way, and a guy over in Turkey read in one of the Turkey newspapers over there about me being a Christian nationalist and stuff. And I guess that this nation was formed out of people who were Christians, and they were
It
national.
is, and the attempt to make it Christian nationalist is an attempt to drive people of faith out of the political arena. And that's what it's designed to do. And we're already seeing pastors saying, hey, we're taking our flag down inside the church. Why would you do that? Because God, even when the Israelites went into captivity, He said, whatever nation I send you to, you pray for the good of that nation. You be loyal to it, because if it does well, you're going to do well. And a lot of Americans are backing out of being involved in American politics. And that violates that whole principle that God gave when He sent them into captivity. But even when they weren't in captivity, they were involved. And so what's interesting is when that first came out, and it came out in a real rush back at the first of the year. So about February, we started hearing all the media networks using the same phrases on Christian nationalism. So, okay, this is what they're going to try to brand this year. And this is coming up for the election. They want to drive Christians away from the polls because evangelicals tend to not vote liberal and progressive. And so they want to drive them away. And by using that term, that's supposed to be able to enact the Patriot Act. And that's supposed to bring all sorts of legal consequences. It's kind of like the insurrection, January 6th stuff. They'll take a law and twist it and make it into something it's not. And so we just went through and did all the research and said, okay, what do they call a Christian nationalist? Well, a Christian nationalist, among other things, if you believe that there are two genders, you're a Christian nationalist. I know a whole lot of...
Well, that makes me a Christian nationalist.
Exactly. I know a whole lot of people who aren't Christians who believe that.
Yeah.
Or if you believe that the judges on the Supreme Court should follow the Constitution rather than be progressives. I mean, it was anything that was kind of conservative. And so we went through, and there's probably 40 or 50 characteristics they came up with, and they couldn't agree on everything, but pretty much if you were conservative or had a biblical viewpoint, even as a non-biblical person, if you agreed with traditional values, that made you a Christian nationalist. And so they've really gone after that. They even made a movie on it back then. Rob Reiner, who did Princess Bride and was in All in the Family, made a Hollywood movie on that. So they really
And it flopped, didn't it?
It did. It made $38,000 for a guy who's won Academy Awards.
That wasn't profit.
That was
that profit?
Profit was $38,000.
Wow.
Profit was $38,000 on the thing. So
that's good
it flopped. But it's all designed to get Christians backing away, and Christians are doing that anyway, and they can't do that. They have to get involved. You cannot let the enemy define what your role is going to be, and that's what they're trying to do, is tell Christians you shouldn't be involved, and you can't do that.
And that is not historically accurate.
No,
I mean, this nation
right.
was founded by Christians, outspoken Christians.
Yes, and one of the things, there was a news outlet that their commentator said, if you believe in God-given rights, then you're a Christian nationalist. And we just chuckled thinking, well, you're saying every single founding father then was a Christian nationalist, because unquestionably, they believed there was a God. They knew without God's help, they would never succeed. It's why even when they first got together, the First Continental Congress, when they are opening their meeting, John Adams says the first motion was made by Thomas Cushing, who motioned that we should open with prayer. They discussed it, they agreed, they bring in the Reverend 𝗃𝗵𝗁, end up having like this 2-hour prayer meeting. One of the actions they take after that is they call for a national time of prayer and fasting, Congress calling on the nation. And if you just start going through the actions and behavior of the founding father, these are clearly Christians who recognize without God, they're not going to succeed. Very similar to Psalm 127:1, that unless the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that build it. They knew this, but the foundations of our nation is unquestionably done by Christians who recognize their role and involvement in America
but
today.
That's not being said today. The liberals will actually tell you that many of them were deists and that they were not born again.
Yeah. Sure. There's a lot of accusations against it, and just like some of the Christian nationalist conversation today, there's a lot of negative accusations used to silence or diminish. And in the case of the founding fathers, really, it's more of an argument to secularize and criticize the founding fathers. And we can go back to the 1960s and see some of the very first attacks on the founding fathers, where they were accused of being adulterers and having all of these illegitimate children. Then you get into the 80s and the 90s, and then they were atheists, agnostics, and deists, separation from church and state. 2000s to present, they're a bunch of racist, bigoted slaveholders. And so for more than 60 years, the founding fathers have been villainized. But strategically, it was recognized by the Marxists and communists even back then. If we can't villainize the founding fathers, then we can never remove the Constitution. But if we can villainize the founding fathers, and the Constitution's fruit of the poisonous tree, so let's villainize the founding fathers, then we can get rid of this. And by the way, by villainizing the founding fathers, then you can also villainize everything they did. And this notion that there's God-given rights, well, then let's get rid of that too, because the government's our savior. So it's a push by Marxists and communists to remove God, to install a government. So then government's the one who gives us our rights, not from our creator. And this is what happens when Christians don't get involved in the process. Because Christians are the ones who recognize there is a God, and God is the one who gave us rights. But the more Christians are inactive, the more we are seeing these God-given rights deteriorate.
I want to jump on that too, because I think there's a corollary that goes with that. A lot of the reason that they're not active and involved is they don't like conflict and controversy. And that's why I made the joke a minute ago, go to church if you want politics, because there's more there often than in politics. Nonetheless, what's happened is what we have right now, 77% of Americans of traditional values, that's faith kind of people, self-censor for fear of offending someone. And what happens is if they can back us into a corner and get us, we don't want to offend anybody, and so we want to be Christian national. If you're not going to defend the heritage, if you're not going to defend what God's done, and so a verse that's really become very real to us in the last year and a half, maybe 2 years, is Revelation 21:8. And it goes through, and I mean, we know literally from the Bible, there is a heaven, there is a hell. Both of them exist. And so as you get in Revelation 21:8, it talks about who goes to hell. And it says that the murderers and the adulterers and the whoremongers and the liars and all these bad people. But the number one thing it says is the cowards and the fearful. That's where it starts off. And we've got a whole lot of Christians today that are cowards and fearful because they don't want to ruffle feathers. They don't want to make people upset. And Jesus spent his life making people upset simply by telling the truth. And we've got to get out of that mindset that we avoid conflict. We're not looking for conflict, but we're not going to be silent when we need to be speaking up. And that's what politics allows you to do.
Richard and I have this Truth and Liberty broadcast, and we Zoom you guys in. We've had you on multiple times. But anyway, Facebook censored me twice in a month or something, and I said something about homosexuals, and they said, do you want us to cut that out? Because if we get 3 times, they take you off forever. And I said, That would be self-censoring.
Yeah.
I said, if they censor me, let them censor me,
That's right.
but I am not going to self-censor.
That's right.
And that's
Yeah.
what you're talking about. Christians have been cowed into thinking that we need to be more Christian than Christ was, because he upset people all the time.
Is now defined as being a wimp, really.
That's right.
You know,
Well, and I think unfortunately, it's a reflection of the examples that we've seen. Because if you look at so many of the leaders in churches right now, and I'm saying things I know that we're going to step on toes for a minute. I know I'm in a place that's probably okay to do, but in John 10, where Jesus talks about he's the good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. Well, if you track on in John 10, he then talks about the hireling. And he contrasts, because he's the good shepherd. He lays his life down for the sheep. The hireling sees the wolf coming and doesn't want the conflict. So the hireling abandons the sheep, who are then consumed by the wolf. And it's super interesting that Jesus, the only thing we know about the hireling is the hireling saw trouble and left. If we look at culture, and if pastors cannot see there's a wolf coming for the sheep, then they're either incredibly ignorant or they're intentionally choosing to go a different direction. And this is where I would, as much as we can in the love of Christ, challenge pastors to examine themselves. Because I think unfortunately so many pastors right now are being hireling because they see the wolf coming, but they don't want conflict. Well, I can't talk about this. I might offend somebody in my church.
Well, one of the things that we saw during COVID, you remember the lockdowns of churches, including Kamala Harris's vice president locked down churches in Minnesota. But one of the things we saw was that the ministries and organizations like Andrew that stood up and said, no, this is an illegal mandate. We have a constitutional right to gather and worship. That they are the ones that have prospered and flourished the most during the last 4 years. I mean, we've seen, Andrew, you've seen record growth. We know many different pastors like 𝗵𝗲𝗃𝗁 and many others that have really hit new levels. And so people are looking for leadership, I think.
Yes. You know, it's George Barna, good friend, and maybe the most cited pollster in American history. But George was looking at churches, particularly pastors, and whether they're standing up and when they stand up. And so there's he identifies 384,000 churches and senior pastors in America. He's calling 500 a day. And in calling 500 a day, he would ask them 6 basic questions about Orthodox Christianity. Did Jesus live a sinless life? Can you earn your way to heaven? Is the Bible accurate in its teachings? Stuff like that. And 72% of pastors disagreed with those basic elements, one of those elements or all those elements. And so you're looking at only 28% that agree with biblical orthodoxy of pastors. And so, but that's 107,000 churches, which that's enough to turn the nation around. That's easy. So then with that, George then got into those 107,000 churches, called them, and said, do you think the Bible addresses every issue of life? And gave them 14 issues. And depending on the issue, between 91 and 97% of pastors said yes. And it was issues like, does the Bible address sexuality? Does it address family? Does it address immigration, economics, education, etc.? And so those pastors, Bible believing, said, yes, the Bible addresses that. Then he said, have you addressed that, or do you plan to? And 90% said, oh, no, that's political stuff. We don't do political stuff. That's terrible.
That's the reason we're in the mess we're in.
Right. That's it. And so it's only 2.8% of pastors that will address what's going on in the culture from the pulpit. And that's part of the Good Shepherd thing, is they're turning and fleeing instead of confronting.
It might be worth noting that survey was done before COVID.
Yeah, that's true.
Because it would be interesting now to go back, because I think we were on your program a couple of years ago and talked about there being a great awakening, and I think COVID has been a influence in this awakening, because I think there's a lot of pastors, there's a lot of churches right now that are waking up who maybe were on the sideline before, and I think a lot of them are still trying to find their footing of where's the balance of what maybe I learned in seminary versus what I'm seeing in culture around me. How do I walk this line? But I think God's waking a lot of people up. It would be interesting to go back and see if that number's increased, because I suspect it has. Now, increasing, it could have gone from 2.8 to 5%. So I don't think we're seeing the majority of pastors going the right direction in addressing these biblical issues. But I do think we are seeing a growth of pastors and even church members waking up, recognizing what needs to happen.
Yeah.
You know, let me just mention that back in 2021, the Lord spoke to me that we were already in a third great awakening. So I had you two come on my program, And these are the week's worth of programs, and you had already seen that. You guys had already had the Lord show you that we were in a great awakening. So anyway, that's one of the products that we're offering today. And everybody says, that every election, this is the most important election that has ever hit America. What would your guys' opinion be about this coming 2024 election?
I think that every election we've had for the last several has been the most important election in American history, and I think this is again that. Because
what's at stake?
What's at stake? For me, from my perspective, I think Constitution's at stake and faith is at stake, because you have a group now that wants to single out and prosecute Christians. We've seen what's happening. If you pray outside an abortion clinic, the FBI is going to come arrest you. If you firebomb a pro-life clinic, that's all okay. And so what's happening is, instead of the Constitution protecting all people, we have people in charge now that are saying it protects our group, it doesn't protect your group. It'll advance our views, it won't advance your views. And so when you get to picking winners and losers under the Constitution instead of everyone having inalienable rights, and it goes back to the discussion we were having, a Christian nationalist is someone who believes that God gives you rights. That's the whole Constitution. And so I think you see that go out the door. I think from my perspective, Isaiah 126 is a real key verse to me. Isaiah 126, you have, this is when Isaiah is being called to the ministry, if you will, because the nation's messed up and they're at the front. He's talking to God, and God says, man, I just don't know who I'm going to send. And he says, here am I, send me. So Isaiah says, I'll be the one. And God's talking to Isaiah, and he said, I'm going to get this nation back to me. I'm going to get it turned back. And he said, here's how I'll do it. Isaiah 126, he said, I'll give you judges as at the beginning and lawyers as at the first, and then you'll be called the righteous nation. Now, I find it interesting that God takes righteousness of a nation and ties it to the type of judges and legal folks you have.
Yeah.
Because when you look at God, we say God bless America, we sing it, we pray it, you got to give them something to work with.
Yeah.
And, we had a Supreme Court that said, hey, we do not think abortion is an inalienable right, and we're going to stop that and let 27 states stop abortion, 28 states. And so God can bless that decision. That came from judges. Where the judges came from, the president appoints them. And so I think what you're looking at now is the next president will appoint about 200 judges, federal judges total, possibly 2 on the Supreme Court. The others will be Court of Appeals and lower courts. And those judges determine righteousness of a nation, because that's what the scripture says. They make decisions that God will bless or will have to oppose. And it represents the nation when they make, it may not be what Tim and I and Richard and Andrew, may not be what we believe. God sees what the nation takes. So I think that this is a bellwether election, because the two sides are so polarized in their pro-God, anti-God worldview.
Absolutely.
If you get a bunch of judges in there that take that anti-God worldview, you're not going to see the same rights we've had for 200 years.
Well, I'm sorry, Richard, you go ahead.
No, well, I was going to ask David, there's something that I've heard called the teaching power of the law, right? So that like the decision, I'm going to take the gay marriage case, for example, leading up to 2015 when the Supreme Court said 2 men can marry each other. Before that, the polls all showed majority of Americans were not in favor of that. Majority of Americans wanted to preserve traditional marriage.
Even California at that time.
Even California
had a law in place.
Yeah, had passed a
32
referendum.
states had a law in place.
And I mean, people were calling for the Constitution to be amended to preserve it. George Bush didn't go there. He should have in hindsight. But the point is, my point for this is, after that gay marriage case came down, public opinion shifted in favor of allowing gay marriage. Nothing else changed except the Supreme Court saying, yes, it's legal. A lot of people, they don't know biblical values, what's right, wrong, and if the government says it's okay, then they'll drift toward that and they'll accommodate that in their thinking. If we're going to disciple a nation, don't we have to engage the government and exert Christian influence over the law?
You have to, because again, God looks at a nation not on the basis necessarily of the individuals in the nation. He looks at the policies they have in the nation. So he'll bless or curse a nation based on the policies. Now, always you're going to have righteous within the nation. If you have a King Ahab and a Queen Jezebel, God's still going to take care of the prophet Elijah, send him ravens to send him food. He's going to take care of that. But he wasn't blessing the nation at the time, that's for sure. And it wasn't until he got a different leadership that he could bless the nation. So the problem we have is God knows and will take care of us individually. But why would we want to be in an oppressive situation? I mean, think of the Christians in China, think of the Christians in Russia. Why do you want to be in a government that oppresses you to have that blessing? It's just not a good situation.
Well, and every nation is going to be governed by standards.
Yeah.
And it's really only a question of whose standards are we going to choose. Right. And if Christians don't get involved in the process, then the only option are ungodly standards, because the only people that can promote godly standards are people that know God. And Andrew, I want to back up to the question about this. Is this the most significant election? Well, I would say it is in our lifetime for sure, because we're at the precipice. We're looking at candidates, and I think there's a lot of biblical parallels. Dad, the fact you even mentioned Ahab and Jezebel, I think really you're looking at a Jezebel kind of candidate. Jezebel did not like the people of God and did not like the ways of God, didn't like the standards of God, right? Really went a different direction. Well, I think we have a candidate right now there is one who doesn't like the people of God and doesn't like the ways of God. Well, then you have another candidate that I think is very reflective of another noted leader in the Bible, but I would say probably like a Samson. Samson was not great at following the ways of God personally. There were times Samson was close to God, times he was doing things that were definitely not godly, but Samson fought for the people of God, and Samson was used by God to help defend the people of God, which we've already seen that from President Trump in his first term. And so this is really, it's like this moment in the nation of Israel where if you're going to have a leader, if you're going to have a king, would you rather have a King David or Rehoboam? Because I think this is the kind of thing we're looking at. King David had his flaws. I mean, major flaws for King David, for those that know and study his life, read it in the Bible. Well, Rehoboam is the one that caused the kingdom to split and divide. And I think this is that kind of reality we're looking at. Yeah. Depending on who wins this election, there could be a dividing going forward if Christians don't get involved in the process.
And for those who know the end of Jezebel, that didn't work out very well. You know, the Lord gave a prophecy to me that said in 2 years, the people that are promoting this wokeness, this happened in this year, wasn't it?
2023 Truth and Liberty Conference.
Okay, so it's been 1 year, and in 1 year from now, the people that are promoting this are going to be removed.
Amen.
Now, I don't know exactly what that means. I don't know if that means removed like Jezebel was removed, or if they're just out of a leadership. But anyway, this little hope for the future right here are 3 prophecies that the Lord gave me. And we have a new product out on this. David is on there. You interview a number of different people. Tell them about that, Richard.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so you gave the word of the Lord that we're in the third great awakening, that word you just mentioned, and then another one where you said that by the 250th anniversary of the United States, that this woke stuff is going to be coming down, and even the liberal media is going to recognize it. So we've taken these prophecies, but we've also taken evidence of them coming to pass, the beginning of it, because it's everywhere. There's so much good happening out there, and God is on the move, and we've put it into this documentary film that I'm telling you, it's inspiring. It will give people hope, and we're offering it today for people who are Truth and Liberty members or who make a one-time gift of $50. So if you're already a Truth and Liberty member, then you're going to get this, or you'll already have it. But if you're not, we encourage you to become one, and all you have to do is go to truthandliberty.net, the Truth and Liberty website, and sign up to be a member. It's a $5 gift per month, automatic recurring contribution or more, and you'll get a copy of this DVD.
And we've got a lot of other product. I don't have time to advertise it today, but our announcer will deal with that. And I'd encourage you to get involved. And also go to Wall Builders. They have one of the greatest websites with so much material there. So it's wallbuilders.com.
Yes, sir.
And man, anything you need to get involved will be there. So I'm going to have David and Tim and Richard back the rest of this week. So join us for our program tomorrow.
We're coming up on election time in America, and that's a big time in American history. You know, in previous generations, we used to have 100% voter turnout back in the early 1800s, the founding era, and now we're down to a much lower number. And so Christians are wondering, should I vote? The answer is yes, you should vote. Get informed, find out about the candidates. Remember what Jesus told us in Luke 19:13, said, you occupy till I come. He expects us to be involved. Every Christian needs to be involved in voting. Make sure you vote in this election.
Explore the new Truth and Liberty website. Empower yourself with Christian liberties and biblical truths, now with helpful features like the Pastor's Toolkit, video archives, and better search capabilities. Unlock access to an extensive database featuring hundreds of organizations, including the Family Research Council, Wall Builders, Andrew Wommack Ministries, and more. Visit our new website today at truthandliberty.net. Andrew is offering his booklet, The Great Awakening, as his free gift to you today. This offer is limited to one free booklet per household and is available in the US, UK, Canada, and Australia. Contact us today to receive your free booklet. This week's panel discussion with Richard Harris and David and Tim Barton is available as part of the God and Country series as a newly updated CD album, TV DVD album, or as a USB made from our daily television broadcast. Also available is the Great Awakening series as a CD album, TV DVD album, and as a USB. Each of these valuable resources are available for a gift of any amount when you contact us. These series are also available for audio download absolutely free from our website. Also, on today's program, Andrew mentioned Biblical Worldview Foundational Truths. This product is available for $120. The Hope for the Future USB is a powerful film that delivers a message of hope and encouragement, reminding us of God's presence and His divine plan for America. This product is available for Truth and Liberty members or for a one-time donation of $50 or more. If you're not already a Truth and Liberty member, we invite you to become one today by visiting truthandliberty.net. We also want to say a special thank you to the grace partners of Andrew Wommack Ministries. Your gifts make it possible to put free ministry materials into the hands of many people in need. If you're not already a grace partner, we ask you to pray about becoming one today. You can become a grace partner through our website at awmi.net. While there, you can discover more product details and download additional free resources. We appreciate your generosity and hope to hear from you today. Join us again tomorrow as Andrew continues discussing America's hope for the future with Richard Harris and David and Tim Barton.
All right, so in the name of Jesus, here we go. 1, 2, 3. We have officially broke ground. Praise God.
Thanks to the support of our friends and partners, Andrew has continued the expansion of our 𝗓𝗄 Bible College campus so that we can raise up more disciples to take the gospel further and deeper than ever before. Because you play such an important role in raising up this next generation, Andrew has decided to give monthly construction updates so that you can see the progress of what your giving and prayers have produced. Visit awmi.net/𝗓𝗄 Campus to see our most recent update today.
You were created with a purpose, written in the heart of God. Long before you were born, He is calling you to find it. We want to help you experience His unconditional love, to be equipped and empowered to become a world changer.